This is Hot Mike. Hot Mike. On the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Welcome back, everybody. Hour 2 on tap on this Friday morning. Our thanks to Corey Provis for joining us. Some good stuff there. We'll have more on the Twins coming up here in just a little bit. I'm laughing because the story is beyond belief. We will share that coming up in just a little bit. Also, it is Friday. We'll do some NFL picks with my dad before we say goodbye. Week 2 began last night, and some intriguing games on the slate this coming weekend. Vikings, we mentioned, we preview that. Their game with the 49ers coming up on Sunday. Monday Night Football is Atlanta and Philly. Kirk Cousins in prime time. That always goes well. And the Eagles on their home opener after their performance last Friday in Brazil. The Packers are playing the Colts. The Jets have the Titans this weekend. Hopefully by Monday I can flip the helmet the other way. That's why it's upside down for our new viewers of our show, that when they lose, helmet gets flipped over. That's the deal. We are also getting ready here. The show wraps up. One of our travel crew, well, 2 of our crews are either en route or there to Johnson City, Tennessee. Our production truck left on Tuesday to get there. They arrived Thursday for setup and ready to go for our broadcast tomorrow of the Bison and East Tennessee State. A reminder for those that either stream our show or podcast it, if you're going to do that tomorrow on ESPN Plus, you will get the East Tennessee State broadcast, which I know for some you might want that. That's fine. You will not get the WDAY broadcast. If you are in our viewing area, you can still stream the game on Inforum.com on WDAY Plus. You can stream it and get us. But you got to be within our viewing area to do that. So just a heads up for that tomorrow. And I had a chance earlier this week to sit down and visit with wide receiver coach Steve Crutchley. I think we've had every assistant coach that's on the staff or new to the staff on over the last couple of years, except for Coach Crutchley. And his position group clearly got in the mix last week at wide receiver, with Mekhi Collins scoring his first collegiate touchdown. The great John Gore story of him getting in. And Bryce Lance, who had 2 touchdowns. That was certainly a huge focal point of the game last week. And I believe going forward, Raja Nelson is not going to play in this game on Saturday. Braylon Henderson's status is up in the air for his availability for the game on Saturday. So there might be another younger wide receiver that has a chance to come through and make an impact. So our conversation with Coach Crutchley about his journey in the Missouri Valley Football Conference and the Bison wide receivers breaking out in 2024. Here with North Dakota State wide receiver coach Steve Crutchley. We've done coach interviews, everybody except Coach Crutch. We have not had a chance to get on the show. So give everybody, if people don't know, your football background, playing background, and how you got to NDSU.
Well, it's been fun. It's been 25 years of coaching. Played at Wisconsin Eau Claire, and that's where I started my coaching career.
The cradle of football coaches in the WIAC, right?
Yeah. And so been all over. But Coach Hebrig was the first coach to give me a start as a full-time assistant. But primarily in the Missouri Valley, that's where I've coached. But I was out east for a little bit. I worked with Coach Landry at a couple stops as well. And obviously know Coach Gazer and Coach Larson from the Eau Claire days. So, yeah, a crafty veteran, I guess, now. But it's been a lot of fun.
It's amazing, the longer I'm around this, how tight the connections are, even though you wouldn't think so. That you just mentioned that you just shake your head at how the connections are in the business, right?
Yeah, it's I guess like anything, networking is important and who you know is important. But it's been followed NDSU not only because it's a great program, but there's guys in this program that I've known for a long time.
How well do you know Coach Polisek going in? Was that something you didn't know Tim before he got hired?
Well, I knew Coach Polisek through Coach Gazer. I got introduced to him a long time ago when I was back in the St. Cloud days, and Coach Polisek was here for his first go around. Yeah, so I've known him for a long time, just never worked with him.
What's it been like? So what's the first 8-9 months been like working with him?
You never know what you're going to get, except you're going to get a lot of energy, and he's going to keep you on your toes, and it's been a lot of fun. He challenges the players, he challenges the coaches, and think it's been fun. I've had a good time with Coach so far.
You've coached, you mentioned, at different spots in the Missouri Valley. Tell me about those stops and what that helped to bring to Fargo when you got here.
Sure. I coached at Southern Illinois for 5 years, and I was at Western Illinois for a handful. But just appreciate the support and the commitment here, and I won't take that for granted.
Yeah.
This is a special place for sure.
You have coached some dynamite wide receivers. I think that position gets overlooked, maybe not so much anymore, but I remember 10 years ago where there was a star wide receiver, it was almost foreign because everybody knows run the football, play great defense. Give me maybe some of the background of why that's the case now, where the wide receiver position is more highlighted in the league than maybe it wasn't when you first got into it.
That's a good question. Maybe more teams are throwing it a little bit more. That's a good question. I think some of our receivers are more skilled, with the 7-on-7s and all that's been going on. That there's some negatives to that, but I see positives in guys playing 7-on-7 and developing, and timing's important too. We've got a great quarterback that's played a lot, and so you take advantage of his strengths, and so it's a good time to be a receiver right now.
You have A to Z in your wide receiver room. You have a guy like John Gores, who's 5'6", to a guy like Bryce Lance, who's 6'5". What are the or even a Braylon Henderson? What are the challenges of coaching guys of different sizes and strengths, especially when it's so variety like it is here?
Sure. I guess maybe the challenge is making sure that the timing is correct with Bryce running a route and Johnny Gores running that same route, how that all works out. But the benefit is that they're different. It's not easy to defend guys that are all the same. I guess I should say it's a lot easier to defend a guy that's the same rather than having a jitterbug like Johnny or Braylon, and then guys that can stretch a field. It's good to have a little bit of both.
To see the sideline react the way they did when Gores scored, what did that mean even to you personally to see him get into the end zone on Saturday?
Well, John just puts in the work, and he doesn't say a whole lot, and he's just earned the guys' trust and respect just because of him going to work every day, and knowing that he's maybe the underdog and people are going to overlook him. So when he had an opportunity, everybody was excited in the room for John to go, and then for him to have some success, it's just even more thrilling just to see his journey and how hard he's worked. He's earned it.
To see Bryce have the kind of game, I'm sure you've seen it up close. I think for fans are wondering, well, why wasn't he playing earlier? I guess I'll ask you, why was there a reason why? I know you had Zach Mathis and Eli Green. You're not taking those guys off the field, but give us the backstory on how Bryce has got to where he's at right now.
Sure. Bryce has done a great job. And when I got here a year ago, how he worked, I just knew he was going to have his time. It just wasn't maybe as fast as he wanted it to be. But he was ready. And so if you had had an opportunity a year ago, I think you would have seen the same thing. And so that's a credit to him, just continuing to work and understanding that at some point it's going to come through for him. There's not a lot of kids that would wait and understand that, hey, I'm ready right now, but I'm just going to take advantage when my time comes. And so it's been fun for him, this year. And maybe there's just a few more targets of personnels, just maybe in 11 and 10 personnel, a little bit more than what we have been in the past. And so that's able to showcase a few more guys as well.
When you're out recruiting, how difficult is it to get a guy that you're looking at to come to North Dakota State knowing you guys are going to run the football, and that's used against you out on the road? Have you found that to be the case, or even more now that you're throwing it more now, quote unquote more now, that you can get more doors open to you, I guess?
Sure. I guess, the guys that are only wanting the football, maybe this isn't the place. And that makes my job easier, knowing I've got team guys. And so obviously you want guys that want to contribute and help the team, but you also want guys that are about the team first. And so I think I've got that in my room right now, and we've got that in our room. So that's a big deal.
I know you didn't spend a whole lot of time on this. Maybe you did for the Colorado, but perspective, to give us the Travis Hunter scout, both wide receiver and corner, what stood out to you about him as an athlete?
Well, the biggest thing is you just not coming off the field. I mean, and to play at a high level and not come off the field, I mean, my guys were gassed and they're playing one way, you know, and he's excelling on both sides of the ball, and he's going up and getting it. So he is special.
What's he more dangerous at, corner or wide receiver in your mind?
I see him as a receiver. I do, but gosh, when he plays defense and the ball's in the air and he goes and attacks it like that,
right.
I mean, why wouldn't you want that on your defensive as well?
And we appreciate that's Coach Steve Crutchley giving us a few minutes. First time we've had him on the show, and I appreciate his perspective on a couple things, especially on the Bryce Lance question, because that's the common refrain we have heard since, well, basically since fall camp began. Was said, Cam Miller said it on our show during media day. I know Tim Polasek has said it, echoed a couple times at 2 separate press conferences about his surprise that Bryce Lance had just 1 reception heading into this season, and the surprise in that. And again, I'll go back to, I think it's fair criticism of the past coaching staff to ask, you're not going to take Mathis and Eli Green off the field. I wouldn't have. You had Raja Nelson coming into his own. Braylon was making plays. And this may seem like I'm taking a shot at a guy like Jake Lippy. Like, what was he doing to beat out a Bryce Lance? That's the question I think that's maybe fair to ask. And if you want to say that I'm taking a shot at a guy that's no longer here, okay, I'll own that. But that's the part. Like, was he not practicing well? Was Jake better at certain things that Bryce wasn't? That I'm not privy to. But those are, I think, fair to ask and to see if we can get an answer on that. I tried on that with Steve. I think he illuminated a bit. I don't know if he was willing to go that further, because those guys were getting reps, and Bryce and Chris Harris and Mekhi Collins weren't. Now those are all gone. Lippy is gone. Mathis is gone. Green is gone. Raj is out of the lineup. Now it's going to be on these guys to play. Eric Peterson wrote a story on Chris Harris. There's another guy that had a few catches last week. He came in, I believe, with 1 career catch heading into 2024. That's another guy to keep an eye on. Big dude that Cam Miller or Cole Payton might be throwing to. That, to me, I've been talking about him for the better part of 2.5 years. Carson Hegerle was in that group until he decided he couldn't play anymore because of injuries. That's a position that they believe they've hit home runs on recruiting. Bryce Lance being one. Mekhi Collins turned down a Kansas State offer to come to North Dakota State. They believe that there are huge things ahead for him. That's the spot. Kate Osterman is getting some rep. The transfer from Minnesota at wide receiver. Now, there's another guy to keep an eye on that potentially can make some plays, maybe even as early as this weekend. Just something to bear watching as they get ready for East Tennessee State. And going forward, again, I don't think it's about this weekend or next weekend. It's 2 weeks from now when the Bison are at Illinois State. Who's going to be stepping up when we get to conference play? 3 weeks from now when UND's on the schedule. That's who's going to make a play on 3rd and 8. Who's going to pick up a first down? Mathis was amazing at that. And to an extent in 2022, Lippy was really good at that. Cam was able to find Raja Nelson on 3rd and 21. Eli on 3rd and 24 at the end of the season. You're not expecting to convert those. I get it. But that's what they were doing. And that, to me, is the question mark as they get into in conference play in a couple weeks. We're over for a break. We'll come back. We got a few more emails to get to on the conference realignment, and we got to share this story of what a former Twins minor leaguer was doing. Hot Mike rolls on a Friday morning. We're back after this.